What's up? I'm about to be on a webinar, like a live webinar thing for lawyers and entrepreneurs. It's called the Lawyer Mastermind. Bill, I believe you pronounce his last name is House maybe. Part of the SMB team, and they do it weekly. But it's awesome because they do it every Tuesday, I believe, and they get between 500 to 1,000 business owners watching this, whether it's the replay or live. They have a whole panel of different people in different areas of business or law firms or entrepreneurs, and today I'm going to be on it for about 15-20 minutes. And I believe we were able to get Glenn to chime in too after me, so it's interesting. I'm not too sure how it's going to go. I don't know what I'm going to get asked. I don't know what it's about. But I just know it's about entrepreneurship. I'm probably going to talk about the show a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get signed in here.
So I'm super excited about this. A couple announcements before we get in. We're going to allow a lot of people to join. Hello, RJ. How goes it? Oh, yeah.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Hydration.
That's it.
Love it. I always have one nearby.
Yep. That's all right.
So we have RJ Messenger, and doing the research on RJ, I mean, he is the number 2 in the TV show Undercover Billionaire. But I didn't know this. You did a TED Talk like a year before the show even took place, which it was so cool to see on, overcoming barriers.
Right.
One of them being, as you're vulnerable about in the speech, your tattoos. It's so funny. We ran thousands of dollars in Facebook ads for this event. And we had some people comment like, why would I take advice on how to run my business from someone with tattoos? and I replied this snarky reply back. I was like, why would you make a judgment like that? You have no idea what RJ has learned or been through in his successes in business.
Awesome.
But he's also the co-owner of Iron Empire Clothing, which is a borderline household name, I'd say now, in the Eire, Pennsylvania area. But he's also director of underdogbbq, which was the business that was actually built in the Undercover Billionaire TV show. So he has been working hand in hand with a billionaire now for months, probably I'd say over a year now, because
it's coming up.
Yeah. So I'm super excited about this. So tell us, how does everyone become a billionaire in 90 days or less? No, I'm just kidding.
Where do I start?
Tell me about working hand in hand with a billionaire, seeing him create a business from scratch. For those of you who don't know, Glenn Stearns, founder of $1 billion lending company, the 5th largest lender in the United States. He's given a truck $100, no contacts, eating through a feeding tube because he just went through cancer.
Yep.
And he builds a business worth almost $1 million in, 90 days or 30 days?
90 days.
So what are the lessons you're learning in this crazy curveball that's been thrown in your life, where now you're director of this household name brand, and everything's just changing crazily?
It's crazy to even still today think back on, because again, you got to keep in mind, as a viewer, we had no idea who he was. From day one when he started working for me, I knew him as Glenn Bryant, some 55-year-old guy from whatever city they told me he was from, and whatever it was. And it was funny because, not even to say funny, but it was wild, because at that time that I met him, I was struggling with Iron Empire, and I was starting to lose my drive and lose my motivation and everything. I was going through crazy personal stuff, business stuff that I was struggling with. And when he kind of came into the picture, I started shifting and started almost taking my time away from Iron Empire to help this guy that I had just met, who first started working for me and then said, hey, I have this crazy idea about this barbecue restaurant. What do you guys think? Me being one of them. And I actually pulled him aside, I think, after about 2 months of filming this, still not knowing who he is. And I said, hey, listen, I just want to thank you off camera, man to man, that you're pushing me to want to take my business and help take my business to the next level, because you're some 55-year-old dude who in my mind has no idea about business. He's coming to me for business advice at the time. And, you're showing me that you can go to a city and, create something from nothing. And here I am wanting to kind of be like, man, like I'm kind of struggling with Iron Empire right now. I don't know if I still have it. I'm like, I can't let this guy come to my city and one up me on it. I have to, get Iron Empire back up and running. And it was one of those moments where it was just like, what the hell am I doing? How's this guy doing this? And I'm over here struggling, but he's coming to me for the advice right now. What am I doing wrong? And, here we are a year later. I don't know, how many people know, but Glenn is part owner of Iron Empire now. He bought into my company because, so he helped. We opened up our new storefront last November. Kind of as the show is ending, we worked out a deal, and I said, hey, listen, I can use some help with Iron Empire. What do you think? And so he's partners with me on this as well.
Wow, unbelievable. Yeah. So if you were to attribute, so again, for those of you who haven't watched the show, you have to watch this. Undercover Billionaire. Yep. You have to watch the show. I know a lot of you on the call right now have watched it. And it's just so fascinating that a guy, he's undercover, nobody knows he's actually a billionaire. He comes into Erie, Pennsylvania, and he's he's your employee, right. Probably on 1099 basis. Right. And yet the vision was so strong that he wanted to build this barbecue joint. I think at the time it was going to be a distillery. Yeah, it was going to be like a brewery or something like that. Yeah, and yet you had the humility to go, I hired this guy, but I'm also, because of his vision, I'm also willing to work with him on this new idea. So try and go back. I don't want this to be like any of your other interviews. I want you to actually try and go back where was the light switch moment where you're like, wow, this guy's not going to give up? This vision is serious versus he's just I know exactly what it is, and it's cool because it actually didn't make the show, and Glenn and I talk about it all the time. It was after about 2 weeks of him kind of pushing some of the people on the team to say, hey, are you in? Are you in? Are you in? There's no talk about we're getting compensated. There's no end game. It's just like, hey, I got this crazy idea. Who wants to help me do this? And nobody knows who I am. And we had just met earlier in the day, the team, and they did film this. We went around to some breweries and stuff and talked about this idea of maybe a restaurant or brewery or whatever. And I actually missed. I had to leave for something, some personal stuff going on. I had some other stuff scheduled, and they went and had another meeting without me. And it was about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'm at this birthday party downtown at this restaurant bar. And I get a text from him, and he's like, hey, I really need to meet you right now to talk to you. Right now, I'm sorry, can I come? He's like, they're going to be filming stuff like that, but I really need a one-on-one with you. Oh, man, I messed up. What happened? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. So he gets there. It's 9 o'clock at night, whatever it is. He calls and says, hey, I'm out in the parking lot. So I go across the street, I'm standing there, and he, I don't want to say calls me out, but it says, are you in or not? I'm doing this with or without you. I have this idea. I want to call it underdogbbq. He's like, you are a true underdog. You could be the face of this and that, blah, blah, blah. But I was having kind of trouble with communication with him because I was so busy, and I'm still trying to run my business at the same time as doing the stuff with him, like everyone was. And he said, you're not texting me back. You're going a day without, replying. He's like, I'm kind of feeling like you don't want to do this. And he's like, but if you do this with me, we're going to make this big. He's like, we're going to do it together. And he's like, I have faith in you that you can help me take this to the next level. And that was my moment where I was like, okay, this guy's the real deal. He just made me leave this birthday party thing I was at to come out and talk to him, to be like, hey, either shit or get off the pot. Do you want to be involved or not? And I was like, I respected that a lot. And I said, all right, I'm in. Let's go forward starting tomorrow. Let's come with the plan. And then you obviously saw what the rest of it was in the show. But that was it. Up until then, I was a little iffy. I was like, can I really give this guy as much time as he wants from me? Well, I'm still trying to keep Iron Empire floating because, again, I was kind of struggling at the time. And I said, you know what? If I'm going to do it, if I'm not going to do something half-assed, I'm either going to go all out or I'm not going to do it at all. And I gained a lot of respect for him for that conversation. So the vision, this is the part that, a lot of people on this call run law firms, right? And it's so, even in the clothing industry, right? It's so easy to just be another clothing company. It's so easy to just be another law firm, another contractor, another business type in a service-based business, right? And the interesting thing to me is that there was something in the tone of his voice, in his conviction, in all these intangibles where no, this isn't just going to be another barbecue joint.
Right.
And I think that's such an important lesson for everyone my next question is about building a team without paying the team. Right. So I'm kind of leading into that. How important is the vision part to building a team when you can't pay the team? And I want everyone to listen closely here, because I know we have a lot of sole proprietors, solo law firm owners, and a lot of the excuses that I hear, I just had a whole day of coaching calls yesterday, is I don't have a big enough team to get X, Y, or Z done.
Right.
So looking back, your TED Talk was about overcoming barriers. And a big barrier people have is, I don't have a big enough team to get things done. So talk to me about the belief shift of building a team before you can pay them. And how would you do that on your own right now with everything you learned from how Glenn did that?
I mean, for me, I actually took that advice, not even that advice, but that idea, and I created that for the new Iron Empire that we had started, because before Glenn, my old business, I was an employee in my own company of 5 different positions. I had like one store associate and one screen printer and a person who did artwork for me on the side, like commission-based type thing. I was doing this step of the job, that step, this step, that step, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't grow my business that way anymore. And learning from the show where Glenn was like, listen, you have to surround yourself. And that was actually part of our deal. He said, if I'm going to do this with you, you need to surround yourself with a team like I did. So that's exactly what I did, opening up this new store. I surrounded myself with a solid crew of 5-6 team members and said, all right, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. So I can step back and I can actually work on growing the business and, overseeing and making sure everything is being done, because I can't do it all myself. And I think that with Glenn, to be real for 1 second, the cameras, of course, I was like, oh yeah, the worst case scenario, I'll get some exposure on this cool documentary that they're filming, whether it goes on Netflix or whatever it is, even if I don't walk out with any money or this business flops or whatever it is. But I'm a people person, and I could tell from like probably the second conversation with him, especially that night that I just talked about, that he was the real deal, and whatever he put his mind to, it was going to happen. It was going to work. And I'm a very firm believer of my city. I love Erie, especially when a lot of people don't, and they want to talk bad about it. And I looked at it as, no matter what happens, I can't be the big, believer of my city and what Erie can do, but then not walk the walk with some guy coming here and asking for help to start a business. I can't be like, oh, well, wait a second, I don't see how this is gonna benefit me. I looked at it as benefiting the city in the end. And again, even if you watch the show at the end, not to give it away if nobody saw it, the check he tried to give me, I said I can't take that. Like I didn't do it for the check. I did it for the bigger picture of things. And still am to this day.
What was that check for again? How much money?
$25,000. And
so at the end of the show, guys, Glenn hands him a check and says, I want to pay you for your time, $25,000. Right. And RJ turns it down.
Yeah. He ended up basically forcing my hand, and because I didn't want to feel like I was being gifted something, because I don't feel like I did it for that reason. And until he really made me understand that, he's like, I'm paying you for your time. Like, your 90 days to me was worth this much time. This is what I want. I want to pay you for your time. I don't want to say, hey, here's a reward for making it 90 days with me and not quitting.
So here's the thing. I figure your net worth is going to skyrocket, spending all the time you are with Glenn, and learning all of these little habits about asking, right? So talk to me about that. When there had to have been an inkling in the back of your head, like where Glenn was in those early stages, building a team without the capability of paying you. The only thing he was able to sell you guys on was the vision. The
idea,
right?
Yep.
And yet he was shamelessly asking for your time. I need your time. how can we execute this in our own business? I know after today's call, I'm going to go try and do this myself and have a couple uncomfortable conversations with people who are experts in something else that I'm not an expert in, and get them to work with me before I'm able to compensate them in some way. So looking back on that, how much does this come down to just freaking asking people to help you?
Yep.
Like just the ask itself, aside from the vision itself.
Right. I think that a lot of that comes down to like an ego and pride thing for some people. That I don't like asking for help. I don't even like asking to, favor, stuff like that, because I think it's an ego and pride thing, and it's just to the point where you're not. If you need the help, you're not going to get it unless you ask. So you either got to swallow the pride, put aside your ego, whatever it is, and if you have to ask 100 people for the same favor, you're probably going to get one of them to say yes. So it's how hungry are you, how determined are you to get that favor. And then when I say favor, it's not like it's something that you can do yourself. Like obviously he needed the help. He had to find his team. And I think, keep in mind, a lot of us involved didn't know each other before this either. A lot of us are like lifelong Erie people, but we never crossed paths. So I think it was like, oh, hey, that stranger that I never met owns this business and they're kind of helping. So why not me? Why can't I do it? And I think once we all started kind of coming together and realizing like, it wasn't just me, it wasn't just that person over there, I think that's the stronger we got. We got stronger as a team. We said, okay, you know what, like they're putting in this, I can put in that then too. Oh, he's gonna do this, so I can do that to them. And I think we fed off of that with each other.
So aside from building a team without being able to pay them, the vision side of the equation, making hard asks, right, before you're ready, what was your one or two biggest epiphanies that you've had in this whole whirlwind of an experience? Easy question,
So, I mean, I don't even know. It's an easy question, but I don't even know where to start with that. I think, I guess, describe epiphany to me. I mean, I get what that means, but like, give me an example.
So like the biggest thing that you realized upon working with, Glenn Stearns this long in Undercover Billionaire, who's going to be coming on in just a few seconds, or maybe he'll come in a minute.
Maybe, we'll see.
The thing that when you were kind of kicking yourself, you were like, damn it, it was this easy to have a mindset shift of X this whole time, all the trials, tribulations I've had in business. What was that one thing where you were like kicking yourself, like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I?
I think I would have to say building a team around me. I struggled for a good year or two with Iron Empire, being like, working 16-hour days nonstop, and being like, this is the only way to do it. As an entrepreneur, I have to grind 16 hours a day and not sleep and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's not the smartest thing to do. Why not? If you can be successful and you're confident in yourself and your brand, why not get the people? Yeah, you're going to have to pay a little bit, but if you find the right people, you're going to get 1 times, 2 times, 3 times the amount of work done that you can do by yourself. And then that's when you're going to start seeing it grow. And it's the best thing I've done for my company since 5 years ago when I started it, is putting this team around me to handle every little aspect of the business, to where I don't have to sit down and do every single job and potentially fail, by myself. And I think back then I would have rather failed trying to do it all myself than rely on other people to do it. And I think that's the best thing I got out of it. And I was like, why didn't I do this 2 years ago when I was struggling? Think about hiring these 2 or 3 people to help me. And again, I think it was a pride and ego thing as a business owner. Like, it's my baby. I don't want anyone else to touch it. I'm the only one who can do it all right. They can't do it right. I'm going to have to train them and this and that. Don't even worry about it. And here I am, almost a year in our new store, and it's going better than it's ever been.
So what is your process for delegation that you now are following? Instead of getting your hands into it, right? Because that's the easiest thing to do is, no, let me just take care of it. Do you now have a new process where you kind of take a step back and you go, first I have to explain the role, now I have to train them on it, have check-ins?
Yep. So we have every morning we have a meeting that's about a half hour. Everyone on the team, all 5 people. And technically Iron Empire is two separate companies in a sense, because we do our custom screen printing. We print for schools and teams and organizations and businesses locally and nationally. So you send us our logo, you want 100 shirts, we do that. Then we have a retail store. We have a retail storefront. You can walk in, buy Iron Empire stuff, or you can buy online through ironempireclothing.com, where you can buy an Iron Empire shirt or whatever it is. So we have two different things going on. So I have almost two separate teams of people. One, I have my store manager that handles all retail. She handles the part-time timers, their schedules, making sure that the retail storefront's taken care of, inventory's good, everything else. And then I have the screen printing side of things, where I have my screen printing sales manager, where she does all the intake, the quoting, the invoicing, the emailing. Then I have a graphic artist, in that loop, full-time graphic artist now, so I have him right here in-house. Doing artwork all day for custom jobs, Iron Empire, doesn't matter. And then it goes all the way back into the print room. In the print room, I have a screen printing manager. He makes sure all the jobs are ready to go for the day. So it's kind of like everyone is their own chain, their own link to this big chain. Yeah. And without one of them, if one person's off, everything kind of starts to fall off. Which I had a little bit of trouble in the beginning, kind of with that going on. But now I've got probably the strongest team that I could ask for right now, to where every morning for a half hour, okay, what's the plan for today? What's going on? What do we got to update on? Boom, we're ready to go for the day. And then it's just a well-oiled machine, I like to say.
So talk to me about unreasonable deadlines. This is a great time for Glenn to come in. I'm talking about setting unreasonable deadlines. So I'll just do a quick introduction on this. I could transition. So for everyone who doesn't know, who hasn't seen the Undercover Billionaire, again, I've told you guys 15 times today already to watch it. Please watch it. His father was a printer. His mother, a grocery store clerk. And from scratch, he built $1 billion lending company, one of the largest mortgage lenders in the nation, fifth largest privately held lender, and he's the star of Undercover Billionaire, where he goes into Pennsylvania and with $100, a pickup truck, and no contacts, builds a business worth just around $1 million in 90 days. So Glenn, thank you so much for taking the time. The question I had was, RJ's philosophy around setting unreasonable deadlines. So how, every deadline you set, right, was unreasonable, and a very interesting thing.
I'm glad someone else said it.
What's that?
I said I'm glad someone else said it.
Well, but here's the thing. You have to dream in those early stages. And the thing that was so fascinating to me was none of the goals you set were hit. But yet you had a way of showing everyone the progress that was made. So talk to us about, how do you cheerlead the team when you're not reaching the big, lofty target? You're coming up somewhere close, but you're showing everyone the progress. You just have to unmute, Glenn. Oh, there it is.
Okay, there it is. Sorry about that. How you doing? Nice to see you, Bill.
Yep.
And nice to see you, RJ. It's only been half an hour.
That's right.
But, I found this trick out by accident, which was when I got involved in philanthropy and got involved in a lot of different things. They would set these goals. We want to reach, a $10 million, donation goal, right? And they'd only hit 5 million. Well, they really only wanted to hit 2 or 3. They'd never even hit that. So they go for these outrageous goals, and if they can even get half of it, they're very happy. When I owned this island with Richard Branson, and he says, I'm going to be in by Christmas. And he had 150 people working on his house, and everyone, this is crazy. What are you doing? Well, it takes people 5 years to build on that island. And he got it done in less than a year. And so did he hit his goal of Christmas? Not really, but he was a couple months late. But the reality is that when you have to push people farther and harder than they think to achieve, goals that no one would ever dream of. And so, in my case, yeah, I had 90 days and nobody really knew that. And we were trying to hit a goal where I think most people won't have 90 days to build a business and won't start with $100, hopefully. And but you can achieve great things when you push and you set the sights higher than anyone could ever dream of, then you're probably going to hit farther than most people would think.
So what we were talking about with RJ before was building a team when you can't pay them, and it's very fascinating. I had a full day of coaching yesterday, like I said earlier in the call. Coaching smaller business owners that are in one of our programs, and the biggest, most common excuse I hear is I don't have a big enough team to get everything done. And I'm sure you learned a lot in that 90-day window, having to make constant uncomfortable asks for people's time. I mean, you had this turmoil like all the time where, off the camera, well, on camera, but kind of off camera as they frame it. You were always like, I feel so bad asking so much of people. But that ask is what allowed you to build a powerhouse team. So talk to us about your beliefs around building a team when you can't pay them.
Well, I would not, I was out of my comfort zone by asking without giving. And I believe in anything in life, business or just regular life, that you should always give more than you get. You should try to always feel that way, that what you're doing in life is by giving more than getting. And so that is my philosophy. Now, the fact that I didn't have enough time to do maybe what could have been done, it was difficult. But so what I would say to those out there, that you should be prepared to give, and whether it's, if you don't have the money, then maybe it's got to be time, it's got to be stock, it's got to be something in the future that can let people see that they're going to be rewarded in some way. And so I was walking a fine line of wanting to reward people, but also wanting to see if they would do it just because they appreciated entrepreneurship. They really loved Eire. The people we surrounded ourselves with, RJ, Chris, Matt, Dawn, they all loved Eire, and they wanted to see Eire rise, and they wanted to see, another entrepreneur get a hand up and grow. And so, but I didn't want to say, here, I'm going to give you all this stuff. I wanted to kind of hopefully be able to reward them, for everything after it was all said and done. But I think when you look at most entrepreneurs, when you start out, you don't have a lot of money, right? So what is it that you can do? And sometimes it might be, literally bartering, right? It might be, let me help you with something over on what I can help you with, and you help me on my end. And so you got to get creative.
Wow. So here's going to be an interesting thing. I'm sure no one's probably brought this up in an interview. One of the most powerful parts of the show for me was when you found a barbecue consultant. I mean, I was shocked that you took finding mentors and experts in their field to another level. I remember stopping the TV. I told my fiance Emily, I was like, I cried multiple times watching it. It was so inspirational. But that one part, I stopped and I was like, holy crap, he's not trying to reinvent the wheel. He's finding people who've been there, done that, and aligning resources. So talk to us about this habit you formed where it's like, whoa, wait a second. I'm not going to try to become an expert on this in 2 days. I'm just going to find an expert in it. Is this a habit that you have in all facets of your business?
No, in my whole life, right? I mean, come on, we are not, what I found that I'm pretty good at is finding good people, right? And and so find people that really know what they're doing, and then you can you can learn quicker, right? And so my thought was, there are people that really understand the barbecue business. Obviously, RJ and I didn't know the business very well, and what I did know was they were lining up down the street for barbecue. There's 50,000 people coming to a rib fest. There must be a lot of people that love barbecue, and so
oh my God!
You recall we had a pivot. Yeah, in the middle we were going for beer, and that didn't work. So it was a quick pivot then to something that looked to be a more natural fit. And you can take barbecue and do it just about anywhere. You don't need a license like you do beer. So it worked out well. But yeah, Mike, you remember Mike, RJ?
Yep,
was
barbecue
an interesting
Mike.
Guy.
Yep.
Very, he fit that that whole what do you call it? That kind of when we had the Rib Fest, it's kind of like a carnival atmosphere, right? A Rib Fest is. I mean, it's just you got all these different rib companies there, and so he fit perfectly, and he understood how to get it done quick. So.
Jeez. And now, like, the thing I put when I emailed you this morning was getting past the honeymoon phase. And in traditional fashion, with you being so successful in business, seeing you take Underdog, and you are not stopping at this little litmus test of, can I build $1 million business in 90 days? You're taking the next step and going, let's create something huge. Let's franchise. So talk to me about going past the honeymoon phase, which you're well past, I'm assuming now, right? Running into all the day-to-day problems of actually running and sustaining and growing the business. Talk to us about that. What is your habit? When you go all in on something, is this a habit you formed where it's like, this won't be done until it's fully done?
Yeah. It's I think you have to, in life, if you give your word, you got to go all in, right? And so, we started this company, and you got to think about it. The lights were on, camera, and let's go. We've got 90 days. We built this company, and then everybody leaves. Well, there's still a real business with real people there. And so I don't get the luxury of just walking out the door. It's a commitment. And the idea was that if this thing became successful, that it would, profits would go to helping other entrepreneurs in Erie. So, we wanted to make sure that it remained successful, and it grew. And then obviously with COVID hitting, that's kind of put, I think, every restaurant on the back burner as far as growth goes, and unless you've learned how to pivot and change and adapt and work differently. So, the idea behind the restaurant and in life is really the same thing, which is if you're going to commit, you're going to go for it, then you better be prepared to go long and hard.
Love it. Thank you so much for the time, Glenn. I know you're on a tight schedule. I really appreciate everything you guys did, dedicating your lives to this, and it's inspiring so many people. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Where can everyone buy stuff from you?
Well, before I take, so I'm literally, the way I have to go is I'm still here in Erie right now. That's why I saw RJ, and we're doing another series where we're helping other businesses. So there's 6 other businesses out here right now that and this will be our last week. I've been here 2 months working on them. So there'll be more coming up in the next few months, which will be really, hopefully fun and it'll be neat to watch, and hopefully help other entrepreneurs learn kind of in these trying times how to pivot. But right now, if you want to go online, because we've got all of the barbecue and Underdog swag and all the Iron Empire stuff over. What's the website, RJ?
So either, obviously, for Underdog Barbecue, you can go to www.underdogbbq.com. That's where you get all the rubs, the sauces, the shirts, the hats, hoodies, all that stuff. And obviously, Iron Empire would be www.ironempireclothing.com.
Cool.
Yep.
So I'm going to send a follow-up email on all this. Kick some butt, guys. Thank you for your time. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so, man, we can just feel the celebrity, rolling off. All right, so I don't have time to present on anything because I had to give up my slot for a billionaire, which, is going to happen every now and then on the Lawyer Mastermind. Maybe I should just get used to it. But without further ado, I am going to transition right into Harlan, who's going to talk about